Time, 1946 hours. Date, 14 October 1943. Location, north of Teaser Plateau. Unit forward, Unit 4. Event, friendly fire strike on grid 627. Casualties, estimated 40,000 KIA. Majority owned forces, infantry, cavalry, artillery destroyed. Status, command and control collapsed. Survivors scattered. Enemy advancing from east. Situation critical. Action required. Immediate ceasefire. Repeat, ceasefire immediate. Urgent reinforcement needed. End of report.
4:32 a.m. The 14th of October, 1943. A wind-swept plateau 30 miles east of the river Tizza. 40,000 souls gone in one strike. A single order, a single error, and the sky itself became a weapon. The ground still remembers. The earth is blackened, warped, twisted by fire. Bones lie under the soil, unnamed. Shadows etched into stone, and it began here before dawn, when men whispered, prayed, and waited for the signal.
Aj, all stations check in. Do you copy? Confirm grid 627. No. Repeat. Correction. 637. Not 2. Static overlapping voices. Orders colliding. Words drowning in static. Frantic. Urgent. Broken. Target confirmed. Negative. Hold fire. They're still moving in. Coordinates unclear. Wait.
The transmission cracked, split, faded. No one could tell which voice held authority, and still, the message spread like fire. That was the first fracture. The moment precision dissolved into uncertainty. The plateau stretched wide and barren, cut by shallow ravines, broken stone, and ridges. Beyond it, fields sloped toward a cluster of villages hidden under autumn haze. To the west, artillery dug in behind earthen banks. Horses steamed in the cold. Men stood silent, rifles slung, waiting. The silence before war is unbearable. Every sound grows sharp. The scrape of a boot, the choked cough of a boy barely old enough to hold his rifle, the mutter of a lieutenant with trembling hands. One soldier I watched him kept pressing his palm against the earth, as if listening to the soil itself. He whispered to no one, his lips pale. It feels wrong. The ground feels wrong. I remember the sweat trickling despite the cold, the smell of oil and iron from the guns, my own heartbeat louder than the distant thunder. High above, bombers circled, invisible in the night, only faint glimmers betraying their presence. The sound was muffled, like a storm trapped in the sky. We were told they would strike at the appointed hour, breaking the enemy lines, clearing the way for our assault. Clean, precise, terrifyingly simple. But war never obeys precision. Scouts crawled forward through the brush, shadows among shadows. They returned whispering reports, movement ahead, lanterns flickering in the enemy camp. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming, but doubt clung to their voices. And then came the maps, spread across wooden crates, flickering under lantern light. Officers leaned in, fingers stabbing at coordinates, hushed arguments, sharp with urgency. Was it grid 627 or 637? A single digit, a single mark on the paper. The boy beside me didn't understand the numbers, but he understood the silence that followed. Silence heavier than any gun. One number, I thought. One mistake could kill us all. By 5, formations were set. Infantry massed in the gullies, cavalry restless at the flanks. The artillery stood rigid, barrels black against the paling sky. And overhead, the bombers waited for the final signal. The lieutenant with shaking hands muttered, "It will be fast. They won't even have time to fire back." His words didn't comfort. They rang hollow, desperate, as though spoken to himself alone. I could taste the metal in the air. My stomach knotted, fingers numb around the rifle. Time slowed, stretched, twisted. Every second before the storm felt like theft, borrowed life before the sky turned to fire. I thought of water, of home, of bread still warm, of voices I would never hear again. The first flare hissed upward at 5:13, a streak of red climbing, bursting in a shower of sparks. That was the signal. Somewhere above the haze, engines roared louder, circling into formation. The boy beside me whispered, "It's starting." And I felt it too, the edge of something vast, unstoppable, rushing toward us like a tide. No man spoke then, no man breathed.
This is command. Strike confirmed. Repeat, strike confirmed. Grid 627. Negative, negative. Hold position. Enemy not cleared. Friendly still in zone. Coordinates locked. Bombers inbound. 20 seconds. For God's sake, cancel. Cancel. They're not static distortion. Voices colliding. A chorus of desperation fading into silence.
And in that silence, the bombs began to fall. 6:07 a.m., the 14th of October, 1943, forward slope of the plateau, 30 miles east of the river Tisza. The ground trembled, not from impact yet, from expectation, from the weight of men advancing into the jaws of something unseen. Columns snaked through the gullies, boots grinding against stone, each step deliberate, hushed, fatal. The mist rose thin and white, clinging to helmets, rifles, the outlines of shoulders. The sound of breathing filled the world. No songs, no words, just the march. The boy beside me stumbled once, catching himself against my arm. His fingers shook. He whispered, "Are we walking into it? Into their guns?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Above, the sky cleared into a thin strip of grey light. The bombers had not yet struck. They circled, waited. Their engines droned, constant, unyielding, like the voice of doom. Every man knew the signal had been given, yet the strike did not fall. Delay, hesitation, or confusion. And in war, delay kills. We moved along a dry streambed. The walls rose on either side, offering cover but also trapping us. One shell, one strike here, and we would vanish. Officers whispered, hands gesturing for silence, for speed. Sweat ran down faces despite the cold. Boots slipped in the gravel. Each sound echoed, betraying us. I remember thinking, we are being herded. We are not advancing, we are being led. At 6:25, we reached the first ridge. From there, the land sloped toward the valley. Enemy positions barely visible, low trenches, scattered earthworks, faint smoke from campfires. Too quiet, too still. The lieutenant with shaking hands raised his binoculars. He stared long, too long, muttering under his breath. Strange, too exposed. Where are their reserves? Where are their guns? No answer came, only the whistle of wind cutting through the dry grass. The men crouched low, rifles tight against their chests. Whispers passed down the line. They've pulled back. It's a trap. The coordinates, are they right? That last whisper clung like poison. The maps again. The numbers, 627 or 637, a single digit. The thought returned, unwelcome. One error, and 40,000 die. The advance resumed, step by step into the valley. Every sense sharpened, my throat dry, tongue thick with dust, ears straining for the crack of a rifle, the snap of wire, the scream of a shell. Nothing, only our own footsteps. The boy beside me whispered, "It feels wrong, like they're watching us." I wanted to tell him to be silent, but he was right. The sun broke through the haze at 7, a pale, sickly light. It revealed the valley broad, open, merciless. No cover, no trees, just the bare earth and the trenches ahead. Orders hissed through the ranks. Double pace, keep low, spread wide. Men moved like shadows across the slope, trying to make themselves smaller, thinner, invisible. The lieutenant scanned again through the binoculars. His face tightened. His lips moved without sound. Then he lowered the glass, muttering, "They're not where they should be. The map is wrong." I felt my stomach knot. Wrong. The word echoed, louder than artillery. Wrong meant slaughter. At 7:22, scouts returned. Breathless, urgent. Their words came quick, stumbling. Enemy forward positions abandoned. Trenches empty. Movement spotted east, not where the strike is set. Officers exchanged looks. One swore. Another argued. Their voices low but sharp. Orders are clear. The bombers will hit grid 627. But they're at 637, damn it! We can't change the signal now. It's too late. The boy beside me looked up. eyes wide, terrified. Too late for who? No one answered. We pressed on, across the valley floor now, every step heavy, slow, as if the earth itself resisted us. My breath came harsh, shallow, ragged. My legs ached, though the march had barely begun. Fear does that. It weighs more than armor, heavier than rifles. The lieutenant whispered, if the strike falls wrong, we'll be standing under it. He didn't mean me to hear, but I did. And I knew he was right. At 8:10, we halted at the second ridge. From there, the horizon stretched wide, villages in the distance, thin smoke from chimneys rising innocent into the sky, and beyond, the enemy, massed, waiting, not in the trenches, not in the valley, but further east, drawn up in lines, shielded by terrain. The maps did not mark. They were outside the grid, outside the coordinates. I tasted bile. The mistake was alive now, breathing, growing. Orders rippled down. Prepare positions. Hold until bombardment clears. The men dropped, digging shallow scrapes in the earth, laying rifles across them. Some prayed, some stared blankly at the sky. The boy beside me gripped his helmet with both hands, knuckles white. The lieutenant muttered, voice breaking, it's not here. The strike is not here. He pressed his forehead into the dirt, as though hiding from the sky itself. And then came the waiting. The longest hours of my life. Between 8:30 and 10, nothing moved. Engines still droned above, distant, circling. Every man counted the seconds, every heartbeat, a drum of dread. I imagined the bombs falling, not ahead, not on the enemy, but here, on us. The thought grew heavier with every minute, until it was no longer imagination, it was certainty. The maps had betrayed us. The error was real, and it was only a matter of time before the sky opened. By 10:15, whispers turned to panic. Men asked, why aren't they striking? Others, maybe they already have. Maybe they hit the wrong place. The boy beside me, voice thin, almost broken, what if they hit us? I looked at him, his face pale, his eyes hollow, and I had no words, because I feared the same. The lieutenant gathered us close. His hands shook so violently he could barely point at the map. If the strike misses, if they drop here, we'll have seconds. You hear me? Seconds. You run, do not think, do not wait, just run. The boy nodded. Too quickly, too desperately. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry as ash. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. We waited, we listened. The engines above shifted, louder, now lower. The moment was coming, and when the first shadow passed across the ridge, I knew. The mistake was no longer a possibility, it was fate. 11:02 a.m. The 14th of October, 1943. Valley floor, east of the plateau. The sky darkened, not from clouds, from wings, from the vast shadow of bombers sliding across the Sunday. Engines thundered, the air vibrated, dust rose in spirals from the valley floor as the formation swept overhead. Men flattened themselves into the dirt, jaws clenched, eyes shut, waiting for the first whistle of death. But the whistles came behind us. The earth convulsed. A mile to the west, the first detonations erupted in pillars of black smoke. The wrong grid, the wrong target. Bombs tearing apart empty trenches, abandoned positions, the earth itself. The boy beside me opened his eyes, confused. They missed? Number not missed. Obeyed. Obeyed the number that was wrong. The shockwave rolled over us. Hot wind, burning dust, acrid stench. My ears rang, my chest hollowed. Men looked up, dazed, disbelieving. And then, clarity, horror. The realization spread like fire. The bombardment had not struck the enemy at all. It had struck where we had been, where our reserves still waited. 40,000 men scattered across those ridges. Horses, guns, tents, all buried in an instant. The lieutenant, with shaking hands, dropped his binoculars. His voice cracked. God, they're killing our own! The boy whispered, trembling. It's us. They're hitting us. And in that instant, the enemy revealed themselves. From the east, a storm of artillery opened. The horizon lit with orange flashes. Shells screamed overhead, bursting among us, shredding men into silence. Shrapnel hissed like swarms of of insects. The valley floor became a cage of fire. I threw myself flat, arms over my head. The ground heaved. Dirt rained into my mouth. The smell of sulfur burned my throat. A man to my left jerked upright with no head. Another writhed, clutching his belly, intestines spilling into the dust. The boy clamped his hands to his ears, sobbing soundlessly. His helmet rattled with every blast. Orders dissolved into screams. Officers tried to rally, but no one heard. Voices vanished under the endless roar. The bombardment shook every bone, every nerve. I could not tell where the sky ended and the earth began. I thought, we are already dead. We just don't know it yet. At 11:20, the shelling ceased. A silence, heavy, choking, unnatural. Men staggered to their knees, ears bleeding, faces blank with shock. Smoke rolled low across the valley, blinding us, and through it came the sound. Boots, drums of boots, shouts in another tongue. The enemy advancing. Figures emerged from the haze rows of bayonets glinting, uniforms dark against the smoke. They moved fast, disciplined, relentless. Their rifles cracked, cutting men down before they could even aim. The boy fired wildly, the recoil smashing into his shoulder. His shots vanished into the smoke. Beside him, the lieutenant screamed, "Hold! Hold the line!" His voice broke, swallowed by gunfire. We fired back, blind, desperate. The valley became thunder, rifles, machine guns, grenades. The air stank of blood and powder. A bullet tore through my sleeve. I felt the burn. The sting of flesh grazed. My hands trembled, but I kept firing, each shot an act of defiance against inevitability. The boy beside me sobbed with each trigger pull, whispering, "Don't let me die! Don't let me die!" The enemy closed. Their bayonets glistened, faces set in grim silence. They surged through the smoke like wraiths, unstoppable, hand to hand, brutal, savage. A man lunged at me, blade flashing. I blocked with my rifle, the steel scraping sparks. My body shook with the impact. His eyes were wild, teeth bared. I smashed the butt of my rifle into his face. He fell, screaming blood. All around, chaos. Men wrestled in the dirt, stabbing, clawing, choking. Blood sprayed across helmets, across the ground. Screams tore the air apart. The lieutenant fought like a man possessed, his shaking hands steady now with fury. He drove his bayonet into one man, then another, roaring. But even he could not hold them back. At 11:45, another barrage rained down, this time closer. Not bombs, mortars, arcing over, dropping into our midst. Explosions tore men apart mid-scream. Limbs spun through the smoke. The boy fell beside me, ears bleeding, his body curled tight, whispering, "Make it stop, make it stop." I pulled him down, pressed his head into the dirt. My own heartbeat hammered against my skull. I could feel each pulse, each second, like a countdown. The mistake had become flesh. Every shell, every bullet, every death, it all flowed from that one wrong number. I could see it, feel it, the weight of a digit crushing us all. By noon, we were broken. The valley floor littered with bodies. Smoke choked the air, turning day into night. Men crawled through blood, dragging shattered limbs. Others sat blank, rifles forgotten, eyes gone. But the enemy pressed on. Their formations split, flanking us, cutting through the survivors. Every order we had dissolved into chaos. The lieutenant screamed again, "Fall back! Fall back to the ridge!" His voice was raw, shredded, but men obeyed, not from discipline out of desperation. We scrambled, stumbled, clawed our way up the slope, slipping on mud slick with blood. The boy gasped beside me, eyes rolling, body shaking. I can't! I dragged him, his fingers clutching my sleeve like a drowning man. Behind us, the valley burned. At 12:30, we reached the ridge. From there, I looked back once. The sight carved itself into me forever. Thousands of bodies strewn across the valley floor, motionless. Smoke twisting upward, blotting out the sky. And beyond, more enemy lines, stretching endless, advancing still. The lieutenant dropped to his knees, gasping, "They've destroyed us! With our own hand! Our own damn hand!" His voice cracked into a sob. The boy lay against the dirt, staring blankly at the sky, whispering, "It wasn't supposed to be like this. Not like this." I wanted to tell him it would be all right, But lies felt heavier than truth. And the truth was simple. The battle had only begun. 14:05 p.m. The 14th of October, 1943, Eastern Ridge overlooking the valley. The valley burned. Smoke rose in columns, black and endless, blotting the Sunday. The ground was carpeted with bodies, ours, theirs, indistinguishable in the haze. The air itself tasted of iron, of fire, of rot. Every breath scraped raw inside the lungs. We were cornered. What remained of us clung to the ridge, rifles low, eyes hollow. No reserves, no artillery, no cavalry left, all buried in the wrong grid. And still they came. From the east, their banners rippled, their drums beat, their ranks surged forward like a tide of steel. Bayonets glinted, lines unbroken, step after step. They advanced as if certain the world already belonged to them. The lieutenant with shaking hands staggered among us, his voice hoarse. Hold until nightfall. Reinforcements will come. But his eyes betrayed him. They were red, hollow, full of a knowledge he could not speak. The boy beside me clutched his rifle like a lifeline, muttering, "I can't do this. I can't." His teeth chattered, though the air burned with heat. His whole body shook with exhaustion, terror, despair. And I thought, neither can I. At 14:20, the unusual weapon arrived. We had heard rumors, whispers of a new device, dragged across the plains in secrecy. A weapon meant to break armies in a single stroke. Not artillery, not gas, something else. The ground shook as it was hauled forward. Massive steel barrels mounted on tracked carriers, black and featureless, humming with hidden power. A low vibration spread through the ridge, through the bone. The lieutenant's voice dropped to a whisper. "God help us! They brought the fire lance." The boy's lips parted. "What is it?" None of us answered, because none of us knew. At 14:27, the first fire lance fired. Not a shell, not a rocket. A lance of pure flame and pressure burst forth, a beam tearing across the valley floor. Everything it touched ignited instantly. Men, earth, wood, steel, bodies were reduced to ash in seconds. Whole ranks of the enemy collapsed into screaming fire. The sound was not an explosion. It was a howl, a shriek of air being ripped apart, of the world itself torn open. My teeth rattled in my skull. My eyes blurred. The boy clapped his hands to his ears and screamed, though I could not hear his voice. None of us could hear anything but the roar. The weapon worked, too well. Enemy lines shattered. Men fled, their ranks torn open, fire spreading through them like plague. Horses screamed, their manes aflame, their bodies collapsing in heaps. The valley became a furnace. For a moment, hope flickered. We cheered hoarsely, half mad with relief. The lieutenant raised his rifle, shouting, "Drive them back! They're breaking!" But the fire did not stop. At 14:45, the second fire lance fired. Its aim faltered. The beam swept sideways across the ridge. Across us, men erupted into flames instantly, their screams piercing through the raw. Skin melted from bone. Rifles glowed red-hot, fusing into hands that clawed the air before collapsing. The stench of burning flesh smothered everything. I threw myself down, face buried in the dirt. The boy rolled beside me, his uniform smoking, his screams tearing my chest apart. I smothered the fire on his sleeve with my bare hands, skin blistering from the heat, his eyes wide, his mouth foaming with terror. "It's killing us! It's killing us!" he shrieked. And he was right. The mistake had multiplied. First the numbers, now the weapon, both ours, both fatal. By 15:10, the ridge was chaos. The fire lance fired again and again, scorching friend and foe alike. The enemy, though broken, adapted. They surged wide, flanking, waiting for the weapon to exhaust itself. And we, what was left of us, stumbled, blind and deaf, choking on smoke, terrified of the very weapon meant to save us. The lieutenant fell to his knees, hands covering his ears, screaming into the dirt. "Stop it! Stop it!" But no one listened. The fire kept howling. The boy beside me clutched at his face, his cheek blistered raw, one eye swollen shut. He whispered, broken. Why? Why would they use it on us? I had no answer, because the truth was worse than betrayal. The truth was incompetence, the wrong number, the wrong aim, the wrong men in command. A chain of mistakes, now ending in fire. At 1540, the enemy charged again. Through the smoke, through the fire, through their own dead, they came howling. Bayonets fixed, eyes wild, voices rising in unbroken fury. We fired what we could. Rifles rattled, machine guns sputtered. Bullets tore men down, but more replaced them. They climbed the ridge, boots slipping on blood, bayonets stabbing upward. Hand to hand again. Closer, bloodier. Knives, shovels, fists. Men choking each other in the dirt. Eyes bulging, teeth snapping. The ridge became a slaughterhouse. I remember one moment. A soldier crashed into me, his blade tearing across my side. I felt the hot rush of blood. My vision swam. I struck back blindly, the butt of my rifle cracking his jaw. He fell, screaming, his teeth scattering across the stones. The boy screamed beside me, stabbing again and again into a body already dead. His face twisted, streaked with blood that was not his. His voice cracked into madness. "Don't touch me! Don't touch me!" He was gone. Not dead, but gone. His mind burned away. At 1620, the fire lance fell silent. Out of fuel, or broken. Smoke hissed from its barrels, cooling, useless. And with its silence came our doom. The enemy surged in waves, endless, overwhelming. Our line buckled. Men fell back, slipped, vanished into the chaos. The lieutenant fought until his rifle snapped in his hands, then drew his pistol, emptying it into the smoke. He roared until his voice tore, until a bayonet pierced his chest and silenced him forever. I saw him fall, his eyes wide, his mouth forming words I could not hear. The boy screamed his name, then screamed mine, then screamed nothing at all as hands dragged him into the mass. I reached, but he was gone, swallowed by the tide. By 17, the ridge was lost. The enemy stood where we had stood. Their banners rose through the smoke. Their voices chanted, and we, the few who staggered away, were shadows, crawling, bleeding, broken. I stumbled through the dark, blood seeping down my side, lungs raw, ears ringing. Around me, only silence. No voices I knew, no faces I recognized, only ghosts. The mistake had become victory for them. For us, it was annihilation. And as the sun set, I knew one truth burned deeper than any flame. It was not their strength that destroyed us, it was our own. 1946 p.m., the 14th of October, 1943. Ruins of a farmstead north of the valley. Night fell heavy, thick, merciless. The fire still smoldered behind us, painting the horizon red. Smoke drifted low across the fields, carrying the stench of burned flesh. Every step through it was a step through death itself. We were scattered, pockets of survivors crawling through ditches, hiding among shattered walls. No commands, no structure, just instinct. Survive the night. I staggered into the farmstead with a handful of others. Walls half collapsed, roof charred black. Inside, silence. The floor littered with bodies, some ours, some theirs. We stepped over them without words. There was no strength left for mourning. The boy was not with me. I had seen him dragged into the tide. His screams still tore through my skull. I could not tell if he lived or if he had already joined the countless dead beneath the ridge. The thought gnawed at me like hunger. The lieutenant was gone, his body left behind in the blood-soaked earth. His final look, eyes wide, lips moving soundlessly, haunted me. He had known. At the end, he had understood what had destroyed us. Not courage, not strength, but a single error multiplied into catastrophe. We crouched in the dark, waiting. Each sound outside could have been the enemy. Each gust of wind could have been their breath. My ribs ached with every inhale. Blood caked stiff on my side. My hands blistered, skin peeled where I had smothered fire. One man muttered, voice thin, almost childlike, "We're not soldiers anymore, we're prey." And he was right. At 2030, the first radio crackled. It was faint, distorted, but real.
Command, this is Unit 4. Repeat, Unit 4. Survivors scattered. Position unknown. Friendly fire, wrong coordinates, we are destroyed. That's negative response, command broken, anyone copy. Valley lost, tens of thousands gone, grid error. Stop firing, you're hitting us, oh God, static, screams overlapping, signals drowning, voices fading.
The sound was unbearable, a chorus of death, trapped in wires, echoing into the night. One man smashed the radio with his rifle butt. Shards scattered. He whispered, "Better silence than listening to that." But silence was worse. Silence meant we were alone. At 21:15, the enemy swept the fields, lanterns bobbing in the dark, voices calling to each other, bayonets glinting. We pressed ourselves into the dirt, bodies rigid, hearts hammering, breath shallow, desperate. One of ours coughed. Just once, a ragged, wet sound. A shot, answered instantly. His skull burst against the wall. We did not move. We did not breathe. The lanterns passed. Hours stretched. Each second endless. Hunger gnawed. Thirst burned. Fear rooted itself so deep it became part of the flesh. My thoughts unraveled. I saw faces in the smoke. Heard voices in the silence. The boy's voice, whispering, pleading, "Don't leave me!" But he was gone. Or I was. I no longer knew. At 2:10, another radio sparked faintly. Not ours, somewhere close.
Command collapsing. Grid 627 confirmed. Repeat, 627 confirmed strike zone. Correction. Not 627, 637, 637. Cancel. Too late. God forgive us. Too late.
The words cracked, tangled, bled into static. The same mistake, repeating forever. By dawn, only a handful of us remained in the farmstead, hollow-eyed, silent, waiting for the inevitable. We knew no help was coming. The sky above held only crows, the ground beneath only graves. One man whispered, bitter. It was one digit, one damn digit. That buried us all. Another laughed, high and broken, until the sound turned to sobs. I pressed my forehead against the cold stone and thought, it wasn't war that killed us, it was arithmetic. At 7, the enemy closed in, boots crunching, bayonets gleaming. The farmstead doors shattered under rifle butts. We rose weakly, rifles shaking in our hands. Not to fight, to show we had once been soldiers. Shots cracked, screams tore the air, bodies fell. I dropped into the dirt, vision fading, lungs failing. My last thought was not of victory, nor defeat. It was of the boy beside me, his trembling hands, his whispered fear, his voice echoing still. It wasn't supposed to be like this. And then nothing. In the aftermath of the battle, more than 40,000 men were confirmed dead, most from their own side's bombardment. The fire-lance weapon was never fielded again. The error of a single misread coordinate, repeated and enforced, doomed an entire army. It was not enemy strength that wrote this tragedy. It was one mistake.